There has been a lot of hype around the new Zhiyun Smooth 4 smartphone gimbal, and it's with good reason. The hardware is amazing. This is definitely the filmmaker's gimbal. But I feel that the software still has a lot of growing up to do. Here's what I like, what I don't like, and what I would change on the new Zhiyun Smooth 4 smartphone gimbal. The Zhiyun Smooth 4 currently retails for $139. That is the same as the new DJI Osmo Mobile 2, but I feel each gimbal targets a different segment of the market, which I will get into in the Versus video. If you want to pick this gimbal up and make something much more amazing than me, I'll have links in the description below, and if you use the links, it really helps out the channel. First, let's go over what you get with the Smooth 4. The Smooth 4 comes in a hard styrofoam carrying case that's very similar to what the Osmo Mobile 2 comes included with. You also get a foldable base adapter that screws into the universal mount found on the bottom of the gimbal. And you also get a USB-A to USB-C cable for charging. The gimbal itself is made mostly out of plastic and weighs in at 750 grams with an iPhone 8 Plus installed and 820 grams with the base adapter attached. The gimbal is definitely on the bigger side compared to other smartphone gimbals out there, but the Smooth 4 should be compatible with almost every smartphone out there, given that it has a max payload of 210 grams. For comparison, the iPhone 8 Plus weighs in at 148 grams, the iPhone 10 weighs in at 174 grams, the Pixel 2 XL weighs in at 175 grams, and the Galaxy S9 Plus weighs in at 189 grams. Zhiyun also advertises a battery life of 12 hours on the Smooth 4, and it charges via the USB-C port on the side. But the battery life here is very variable because depending on what phone you're using, how well you have it balanced, and how much you're moving around will all play a factor in how much of a battery life you'll actually get. Unfortunately, you can't use the USB-C port to charge your own phone. Instead, you have to use the micro USB port found on the tilt axis of the gimbal. And personally, I don't have any micro USB to USB-C cables or micro USB to lightning cables or any adapters for that matter. I feel the Smooth 4 should have came included with a USB-A port instead, or at least let you charge stuff via the USB-C port, because right now I think it's going to be very hard to charge your own phone using the gimbal. And if you decide to shoot in 4K with your phone, you're really going to need to constantly recharge your phone. Now, if you do decide to invest in a gimbal, obviously it's going to smooth out your video, but it's not going to be perfectly smoothed out. You're still going to get a little undulation, but you can always just smooth that out even more by adjusting the way you walk and hold the gimbal. Zhiyun ZY Play app also lets you choose between having electronic image stabilization on or off. For the most part, I've been using it with EIS turned on, but if you use it with EIS turned off, then you're going to get a slightly wider field of view. But the Smooth 4 does a really good job of keeping your phone on axis no matter how much you move around. Very rarely has the gimbal messed up my shot because of how I was holding the gimbal or because I moved in a certain direction. It also requires a good amount of torque to reposition your shot, which I personally really like. I also really haven't experienced any overheating issues with the motors either. And the gimbal itself manages to stay very quiet, so you're not going to get a lot of squeaking in your shot. But keep in mind, unlike the Smooth Q, the Smooth 4 is not a 360 degrees gimbal. But the biggest feature the Smooth 4 has to offer are the manual controls and the zoom wheel. Like I said at the beginning of this video, the Smooth 4 is the filmmaker's gimbal because you can manually adjust all of your settings using the physical buttons. Personally, one of the things I hated about the Osmo Mobile 2 was having to use the touchscreen to adjust my settings and in the process messing up my shot. With the zoom wheel, you can also precisely adjust the zoom and you can also pull focus. But unfortunately, even though there is a slew of physical controls to control your camera settings, there is no joystick to tilt or pan the camera. You have to do it manually. And personally, I was surprised at first because I assumed there was a joystick. And there have been multiple times where I would have liked to have had a joystick. And I think Zhiyun should bring some tilt and pan functionality with a software update by maybe quickly double pressing the flash button in the center and using the center dial to precisely adjust your pan movement. And maybe double pressing the crosshairs so you can use the zoom wheel on the side to precisely adjust the pan. I don't know, there's just so much you can still do with the hardware here, but I'm still amazed there is no joystick. And in order to get the most out of the Smooth 4, you're better off using Zhiyun ZY Play app, or else you're not going to be able to use the physical controls. For the most part, the ZY Play app does a good job of getting good image quality from your camera. The image quality is much better than what you would get using the Smooth Cues app, but I did notice the image quality wasn't as clear when you zoomed in on something compared to the iPhone's native camera app. Just like most other gimbals, the Smooth 4 can also be used to capture various panoramas, but unfortunately, I found that it only works 75% of the time, and that's me being generous. And finally, let's talk about the active tracking. It's mostly useless. The tracking feature loses the subject very easily, and you can't move the gimbal too fast. But since this is software, I hope Zhiyun will address these issues with future updates. But finally, let's talk about the handle. Like I said at the beginning of this video, this is a pretty big gimbal, and in most cases, it's a two-handed gimbal. But I can't get over how much I hate the handle. It's not ergonomic. It's really just a rounded off rectangle, and the gimbal never rests comfortably in the hand. And the plastic itself is also very slippery. So like I recommended with the Osmo Mobile 2, you better jerry-rig a wrist strap to this guy, or else you're gonna have a bad time when you inevitably drop it. So here's my verdict on the Zhiyun Smooth 4. It does what it's supposed to do very well, and that's keeping your phone on axis no matter how much you move around without almost never snagging or adding unwanted background noise when the motors are working. The physical control buttons let you quickly and easily adjust your capture settings on the fly so you can get the best shot. But I do feel there is still room for improvement and refinement in the ZY Play app. We need better app stability and better active tracking. I also think Zhiyun should give us physical pan and tilt controls through a software update. But if you're a mobile filmmaker, the Smooth 4 is still a great tool to have. If you made it this far, I guess you enjoyed the video, so hit that like button and get subscribed. It helps out more than you realize. Support the channel by clicking on the links down below, and I'll catch you next time.